Good evening, everybody. I'm Jocelyn Mathewes, and this is Eat Art Space, a pop-up dining room gallery from a tiny home in Appalachia. We're based in Johnson City, Tennessee, and I'm happy to welcome everybody here. In just a few minutes, Mary Nees is going to join us and tell us all about her beautiful paintings. I see her in the audience, and so I'm going to invite her, and we're going to get to ask her some wonderful questions. So I look forward to everybody's questions, and please, if there's anything that you want to comment on or ask questions about, put them in the comments. Mary is going to come here. I have invited her here. We will be able to see everybody. It's so wonderful that you all can join us here. This is my dining room gallery, and hello, Mary.
Hey, hi, how are you?
I'm doing well tonight, and I hope that you are excited to be here as much as I am. I've got your beautiful paintings behind me right here. So welcome, and welcome to everybody who is in the audience. We hope that you guys have some good questions for Mary as she talks.
Yeah.
Mary, would you mind introducing yourself? Just tell us a little bit about your background. I haven't really gotten a chance to preamble because you were so quick on the draw. How long have you been living in Johnson City, and how long have you been painting? We'll start there.
Thanks. I've been living in Johnson City, my husband and I, since 2003, so that's about 18 years. How long have I been painting? Probably about maybe 35 years. Well, actually, longer than that. I was playing around in high school. I did a little bit in college, and then experimented when I was a young mom, and then started taking classes in the 80s in Philadelphia.
Oh, wow. So you've been trained in different places. I remember reading that in your bio, and that you've
Yeah.
also traveled around a little bit. So can you tell, like, one of the things I love to start out with is why your chosen medium? Is there something that specially connects you with this medium? Is there something that draws you to it? And then we can get to this special project that you've put together here.
Yeah, I oil paint mainly. I love working with inks too, for the simplicity and the strength of value that you can get with ink. I got my MFA in printmaking, so I learned a whole lot of different process that was really helpful, and I ended up just going back to oil paints. I actually inherited my grandmother's box of oil paints when she died in the 70s.
Oh my goodness.
Some of those paints actually are still malleable.
So your grandmother was a painter.
Yeah, she was an
Oh, wow.
amateur. I'm not sure she ever sold anything, but she did a lot of exploring. She never actually started until she was in her 60s. So that gave me a lot of courage that I could do it too. And I learned how to manipulate the media, the oil paints, at the Fleischer Art Memorial in Philadelphia in the 80s. My kids were taking classes there, and so they had a parents class. It was really cool.
Wait,
And
so your kids were taking classes, and then there were parent classes available there too?
yeah, isn't that amazing?
Like
Yeah,
simultaneously.
yeah, it was such a gift. Yeah, and it was like a 20-minute drive from home, and the teacher was amazing. And so I learned a lot about composition from her. And then I took another class, several classes actually, from a young painter who worked in oils, did amazing still lives. She was such a color master. Chris Lafuente, if she's watching, she had a huge influence on my life, in my
So
work. Yeah,
prior to those classes, what was your original training and background and other
yeah.
vocational pursuits?
Well, I could start early just talking about the significance of landscapes. I have some
Okay.
very early, vivid memories of just looking out there and being really moved by it, not really understanding why, but enough to know that there was something there that I wanted to understand. And then when I was in high school, I saw Monet's haystacks at the Art Institute of Chicago. They have a huge collection of his haystacks, and just transfixed, really, because it was evident as each of these, they were all the same size. They were lined up on the wall, probably about 15 to 18 of
I wish I
them.
had a visual to share right now.
Oh, my man, yeah. And it was not about the hay. I mean, he was painting haystacks. I'm sure you're familiar with some of those haystacks from every different season, every different angle, every different pattern you would use. But these piles of unusable grain just stacked were carriers of light. And I mean, I just want, how do you do that with materials like paint? You know, it just blew me away. So that and other influences, but I decided to go to school undergraduate and study design in environmental analysis.
Oh, wow.
I knew at least that age, 18, that I wanted to be involved in the arts because I felt that it would be a way of being able to handle bigger themes. I didn't even know much about those bigger themes, but I just knew that it would carry. It was a carrier, like Monet's haystacks. It was language. And and in that process, during those years, 4 years in school, I met my husband, and we embarked on a spiritual journey together. And talk about big themes. I mean, that's where things started to really click together for both of us. And then kids came, and we had 4 kids in 4 years. I mean, it was kind of like
That's a pretty intense journey right there.
It was. But we did a whole lot of creative things with them, and but life was chaos. As you can imagine, you already know, I was a pastor's wife then, and we were very knee-deep in a lot of great work, but it was hard work. And so I never really was able to do my own artwork or even considered it valid at that point, except on vacations. And so, but that was always landscapes. So landscapes
But
have always...
real quick, we had a picture of where you were. Can you quickly spin the camera around and show everybody where you are
Oh,
now?
yeah. Let's see now. How do I do that?
You know, as a transition into landscapes, and also like, look, this is your landscape right now. This is
so
your
it's right out my
studio.
window. So I have this amazing loft space. You can see it's right above our living room, and then beyond it, there's like a built-out attic space here.
Oh, wow.
And my husband, during COVID, my husband helped me with this, extra lighting up here. I've got all my books, which are, you know, really inform a whole lot of this process. I have things stacked over the place.
So do you work in the attic space, or is that more storage and then you work out in the...
No, I mean, I do. I mostly work in the attic space. When I go out, plein air, this is an old easel that I don't use anymore because it's just too awkward. But I have a new easel for doing plein air work. And basically, that's sketch work. I'll do oil sketch work there.
I'll flip around to the oil sketches here.
Yeah.
This is the oil sketch work.
I do that all in studio. And I just mark off a piece of Bristol paper and do some really fast composition studies, basically, and some palette investigation. This whole wall here that you're looking at in my studio just has tons of stuff that are just kind of like ongoing inspiration. I worked out here's a woodcut. I transferred this for a woodcut. That's a drawing I did when I was in college of a self-portrait. This is a kindergarten finger painting that my dad held. He framed it, and you can see how brown the paper is. This is from like 1955, and put it by his bed, which really, you know, I mean, I guess it kind of encouraged me that there might be something here. And then these 4 words I showed you when you were here, Jocelyn: humility, wonder, courage, and perseverance. And then under each one of these, I just have some favorite quotes that kind of mark these 4 key themes. I mean, it's not like it's a magical formula here, but from my reading and from my own investigation, let's see how I turn this back around. It gives me kind of a way when I'm stuck, how to go back into the work I want to do.
So let's talk about the work that you want to do and the work that is behind me right now. That is a very unique series.
Yeah, I'm so thankful that you are interested in it and that I had a space to show it. I just finished this during the first COVID year. And that is Psalm 120. There are 15 large pieces here that
I'll back
Jocelyn
up
has
here.
arranged on the wall. And they are on cradled panels. So this is the first three, Psalm 120, Psalm 121 on the bottom there in the duo, and above it is Psalm 122. These head off a 15 psalm series that are called the Psalms of Ascent. I call them the traveling songs. And basically, they're meant to be read as a collection. I've been studying these and pondering them for several decades to try to understand these themes and the progression. And there's just some amazing connections here. This one has a lot of mixed media and burned into it, blowtorched. This is encaustic layering that I did. These first three I did about 10 years ago. This one has scratched into it the first phrase of Psalm 121, I looked up to the hills, from whence comes my help. And then the top one, these are both oil and cold wax. And from then on, the whole rest of the series is just oil and cold wax. And caustic is just too toxic and a little more labor intensive. This cold wax medium that I learned about this process in this time and is pretty amazing. Because of the layering, you can do the digging. The history. Are you doing okay? I see a little
Yeah, there was a
marching
little
symbol.
glitch on your end for me. But I
Okay.
wanted to ask, can you talk about, as you're contemplating this particular text, how did you think about translating them into landscape? What was that process like? In what ways does it influence the choices that you make and what you're trying to convey? I'm interested in digging into that for these specific pieces. And maybe something to talk about that we had talked about earlier was talking about the pattern of progression
Yeah.
within this series. So,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
a really, really
I'm
good
really curious
question.
about how that all, like, how do you make those decisions?
Well, like I already pointed out before I ever knew anything about the Psalms, the landscape really moved me, and I realized in grad school my last year that
I'll flip around to your
it
studies while
it
you
was
talk. You don't have to
yeah,
talk
these
about it.
simple
Yeah.
little landscapes here that it was more than just what I had considered previously hobby art, that I really was interested in the long view. And in these Psalms of Ascents, they're basically a step-by-step progression into that long view. And the land is referenced often in these Psalms. There are three main themes: the land that was promised Abraham, the blessing that would be given to Abraham, and the seed that would be given to Abraham, which eventually became the Jewish people. And so these 15 are a series that were written by various writers, David, Solomon, Hezekiah, probably. They were arranged after the
This is a
exile. And
scale. This is
yeah,
the last in the series here, just for
yeah.
reference, everybody. I'm going to
Actually,
try to show them.
that's the second to last
Oh,
triplet.
that's right. The other ones are over here. Hang on. I'm
Yeah.
going to try to take everybody through it while you talk.
Yeah, in fact, I could talk about these varying themes. And so how did I meld? Sometimes I have so many ideas that I can trip over myself with it. How did I meld landscape with what I was seeing in these very explicit psalms? And I obviously didn't want to be I could not make a visual representation that would incorporate all the words that are there. And so I decided what I really want to do is kind of summarize with like a postcard image of the main emotional idea that's being communicated there. And these Psalms, I mean, all of the Psalms, but this 15 series, which really fascinates me, is so emotive. Like this one right here is about being assaulted. He talks about, I escaped the snare of the trapper. They almost tore me with their teeth. And so you can see what's being suggested there with this kind of sense of a flyaway escape and these teeth that are hard and coming down. And so you almost a bird image there flying away in the upper right hand corner. So I'm basically taking some of the main themes that I see after doing a lot of observing and summarizing, and then trying to simplify what's in that psalm, and using it as just a point in time reference of the emotional tenor that's in that particular psalm. And these emotions that are in these 15, I mean, it covers incredible gamut. I mean, if you want to zoom back to that first one, that's basically disgust and despair. And he's far away from the land, and he's trying to make his way back. He's living amongst liars. And then the next one, Psalm 121, he's looking up at the far distance. I look up to the hills, from whence cometh my help. And he recognizes it's basically a plea. My help comes from the Lord. And then the one above is kind of an opening of a whole new spiritual territory that he is a part of with others. He says, I was glad when they said to me, let us go up to the house of the Lord. So you can see there's some journey going on here. But I discovered in my kind of trying to dissect all 15 of these, what's going on here? Why are these 15 the selections for the Hebrew people as they go up to their festivals? And there's actually a cadence, Jocelyn. It's really fascinating. Like if you were you know how the military guys have a sound off, you know, da, 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 da. And so there's or the spiritual the Underground Railroad songs as they traveled in danger. There's a cadence that kind of helped make the journey doable. And so every triplet, and that's why these are organized in triplets in the way Jocelyn hangs them, and the way that I tried to think about it as I was painting them, moves in a certain pattern that just keeps repeating and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that pattern is basically a problem or a distress in the first of the triplet.
So, and you had me arrange them so that they would go from the distress and then upwards through the transformation and then to the resolution.
Right, exactly. So there's a lot of different words you could use, but distress, reliance is probably my favorite word for that middle one, and then resolve. There's some kind of resolve that happens. So in that middle one above your head there, the one actually on the other side of the wall.
This one?
Yeah, this one is Psalm 120 when I was doing a sketch of it.
And that's the opening psalm. So
right, that's the opener, the distress.
We have this distress, and then in the final version, it's a little bit more inverted, and I can zoom in here.
Yeah. These were just little oil sketches that I did in 2017. I audited a painting class over at ETSU. I was retired by them, but Christian Reben.
Here's the final version.
Yeah, and I did those oil sketch. I did that oil sketch that you just were showing after I did this one, because I was trying to understand again. I was going back into all 15 and just doing a short little sketch to try to move myself forward, because I only had those 3 done at that point.
The first 3
of the large ones, yeah. And so, it was daunting. I mean, I was really kind of stuck. How in the world do you do this? It's so ambitious to try to summarize the psalm into an abstraction.
Well, you're taking us a very personal and very rooted spiritual journey, and then trying to translate that into that's captured in a text that is then translated, and then you're trying to translate that into something visual in a completely different medium.
Right.
So,
yeah,
exactly. You've got your work cut out for you.
Yeah, and because of COVID, I was able, isolated and I mean, really wanted to finish this, but really didn't know how. I finally just decided, okay, I'm just going to dive in. I've got the time now. I've got the materials all here. I had the panels already. I just was stuck. And so I came to the conclusion, this is never going to be a perfect representation. And that's one of the great things about art is that, there aren't any rules. I mean, nobody's going to put me in jail if they don't like my painting. But I get to do this. And so, and there are a couple here that are really favorites for me.
How about we take a moment and you share your favorite ones? I'll spin the camera around and we can go through. Yeah. Do you have a favorite from the beginning series, or are there some of these? I mean, I think there's a tendency for me to gravitate towards the resolution pieces because they feel hopeful. But there are
Right.
some things that I like about the sort of mid transformation work.
Those reliance ones and the
Yes.
distress ones. I think one of my most favorite visually is that bottom left one there with the blues and the little clouds.
Well, this one's hard to tell on the camera. It flattens out. These are very highly textured pieces for folks who can't. There's no way you're just going to get it through the screen. You'll just have to come by the gallery. Make an appointment anytime, you guys. This week, it's open for folks to come in.
Yeah, that's really
So
helpful when you come in close like that. I love this one. And this is the psalm that says, "We were like those who dream." So it's basically about this dream of fruit and effectiveness. And the writer is basically just casting out there her frustration or his frustration with the unrealized idea of something that she knows is going to happen but doesn't know how to get there. And then the one right next to it is basically an admission that the real work gets done when you sleep, which is exactly what happened when Adam was put to sleep and Eve was created. Abraham was put to sleep and the everlasting covenant was given and made by God in Genesis 15. Those are really pivotal passages. And
those
and
are
then
the
Psalm 1,
recurring themes. It's like
yeah,
things happen when you sleep.
all these things are echoed all over the text. And so this one is basically, he gives to his beloved even when she sleeps. And then the one right
So
after
that's
that
a
is,
quote from this particular psalm.
yeah, that's Psalm 127.
Can I ask if you had a particular translation that you chose to use when examining the text?
I actually printed out a lot of different versions,
Oh, that's
and I did
interesting.
that a long time ago, whenever I was beginning this about 10, 12 years ago, because I thought I was going to do a lot of mixed media. And then I thought, no, I did it in the first one where I put words in the text, and I thought, no, I'm not going to make this about the words. I'm going to make it about the emotional summary. And so the words informed me, of course.
So for
But I
this
wanted,
final one in the triplet, if we can finish the triplet here.
it's the dream of fruit. And so it's the fruition of all that she was dreaming about.
Oh, that's really interesting. And if you pull back and like think about it, it's almost like, I need to hear that story underneath
Hmm.
it, and then it's almost like a movie,
Yeah, yeah.
some kind of a visual
And,
movie.
and that's the whole thing. They were meant to be walked through. And so they were probably sung several times as Hebrews walked up to the feasts, three main feasts in Jerusalem. And each was a reminder of both the difficulty and then the reliance factor at each aspect of each one of these triplets, and then the promise of resolve.
I'm trying to get close to see the texture. You've got some drips going on here in your technique. Now, I'm going to ask a technical question. And if anybody has other questions about either a specific painting, or you want to see something, or you want to ask Mary something, please drop it in the comments. This is your chance to ask her something about the work or about her technique or her background. It is an open forum. You guys are welcome to comment.
That
So,
theme right there is about persecution, very direct. They're scourging me on my back. It's obviously a landscape, but it's about the individual's persecution.
and then
And
we
then
move to,
this sense of despair. In fact, the first verse in that Psalm 130 is, "Out of the depths I have cried to thee." So now the psalmist is integrating the problem with his trust that, God, I'm talking to you. Where are you? And the sense of hope about a conviction that God hears, but not seeing any answer there. See the texture there too. That was,
yeah, that's pretty.
yeah,
I've got good light on that right now.
yeah, thanks. That was accidental, but I thought, oh man, I'm leaving that. That is really great. And then the one at the top is very simple. That happened so fast. And I knew it was done. I just was thrilled with this one. This is Psalm 131, which is my favorite psalm in the series. O Lord, my heart is not proud, nor my eyes haughty. nor do I involve myself in great matters, but you have quieted and calmed my soul like a weaned child rests against her mother.
I have to say, I think that I can tell that it's your favorite. You know, when you talk about creating, like in a way, you're creating
Yeah,
emotional landscapes is what you're doing, but
exactly.
using spiritual text as a vehicle for assisting and facilitating the expression.
Yeah. And I did a lot of studies of this one. I
Oh,
mean,
I remember.
because,
I actually have them. Hang on, I'm going to hold them up to the camera. I have the studies. So I think this one was your first attempt.
actually no,
This is the second.
the one that had it almost looks like there's a blue veiled woman
Oh,
there,
here we
and
go.
it was too
There's this one.
literal. Yeah, I actually put a cloud over her head. It was just too ridiculously literal. And the more literal I get, it just doesn't. Abstraction is a really good language for what I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
or what I hope to do. I want to get better at it.
Oh, hang on.
Uh,
That's the second attempt,
so
and
then
this was the
then I started
first one.
right. That followed the blue woman. That and a couple others I think you have of that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of the sense of being surrounded, being comforted, being calmed, being able to see. I mean, the
And
trivial.
you can see bits of the color scheme playing out in
Very
the from
good.
the beginning to the end, and like that's
Yeah.
this is the stuff that I like about artist talks. Is like you're like, oh look, you get to see parts of the process and
Process.
not just the
Yeah.
finished work.
That's great.
But
Thanks for showing those together. That's
hey,
pretty
well, and I
cool.
have a few more studies of the other ones that you've done that I'll flip around to show that I have here on the table. So I think what's interesting about your technique for these is, I mean, these are so much smaller, but they're still very resolved. And
Thanks.
it's funny when you talk about things being very representational. It's actually, I think to me, maybe it could be coming from my illustration background and design and all of this very like super clear communication thing that
Yeah.
it's hard for me to read these things as literal. There's some of them that come across as very literal, and then some of them sort of dissipate into full on abstraction.
Right.
So
Yeah.
do you feel that push and pull? Are there some that you intentionally make more representational, or how do you approach that aspect
Um,
of maybe this practice, or even, I mean, you regularly
Other work.
paint plein air, so
Yeah. So when I'm doing plein air, I tend to be more representational, and that's one of the reasons why I'm dissatisfied with plein air. The next time I go out, my aim is to be able to just take the basic bones of what I'm looking at and just play with the structure and the color. It doesn't have to be what I'm looking at, although what I'm looking at can inform a really strong composition. So
so
yeah,
but I mean the challenge there is that you're then interpreting the landscape
right.
both compositionally, like, and trying to distill it live in the
Right.
limited time frame that you have.
And to me, that's a much more honest way for at least what I want to do with art. I'm not trying to make the painting be something that it's not. It's just it's just paint on a panel or paper. And so I don't need to get a perfect representation. And I'm actually not good at being able to do that. Abstraction invites the viewer into kind of a gestural suggestion. It gives them the opportunity to interact with something that's much bigger than even the artist could do. And that really excites me. That to me is where language starts becoming a dialogue into these bigger themes that really fascinate me.
Can we talk a little bit about that abstraction and representation push-pull more? Because I think it seems to come into play in the last series a little bit, the most. Like over here, you have these, I don't know how to read these. They're ladders, they're chairs. I want to know what
Yeah.
they are, but at the same time, I don't want you to tell me what they are. It looks like it looks like a hallway, like doors opening. I
Yeah.
think of so many different things when I see this. Like part of me is like cafeteria. I don't know. Like I don't know where that's coming from, but I'm just ad-libbing here. So
Yeah, well, actually, the words you're using are pretty exciting to me,
okay.
because it's communicating something even beyond what I knew how to do. I mean, this psalm is the longest of the entire 15th series. It's very historical, and it's
What do you mean by historical? Do you
well,
mean it's
it's
like it's
Israel's history. They're going back and
okay.
repeating all that they've been through, and they're looking back on this hard, long journey, and they're basically summarizing. Oh, and then we did this, and then we learned that, and so it's kind of a struggling celebration about their own history. The ladders are something that they were kind of like ladders and chairs. I was trying to abstract them a little bit so it wasn't really obviously literally something, but I wanted the sense of climbing or struggling or sitting or trying, like Jacob had a dream of a ladder that ascended to heaven, but all their history just demonstrated that they couldn't do this on their own. Only by God's enablement were they able to have any kind of resolve. And that's what that psalm is about. I saw a painting on a Zoom in Tel Aviv during COVID that was by an Israeli artist. And that's where I got the idea of that imagery in the center of that. And then this is obviously a landscape, Mount Hermon, which is literally in the land. It's the highest mountain in Israel. And the psalmist is referring to that particular mountain and talking about, he's symbolizing there too. He's talking about like the dew falls down from Mount Hermon, so will the oil proceed from
So
Aaron's
it sounds
beard.
like when you approach the representation, the representational aspects of it are in many ways coming from the text.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. So, and then in this resolution one here,
Yeah, and you'll notice
I'm
that in
really,
all three of these, I used gold leaf. I mean, this is the last
I
of
mean, you
of the
can barely
series.
see it in this one. It's
Yeah,
kind of right
just
somewhere
a
in
hint.
there, but
Yeah.
these ones have gold leaf way up
Yeah, this is
here.
just kind of raining down. And it's interesting because all three of these are corporate hymns now. And basically, it's not just the individual we started with in Psalm 120. This is a group of Hebrews that are making it to Mount Zion, but they're doing it together. And then this final burst of praise. This is a real interaction with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But it's joyful. They're done. You can see the kind of the suggestion of hands, and yes, I photographed my hands, and I looked at images online of hands to try to get some kind of a suggestion without being over literal, because I wanted to show almost like a bouquet of hands reaching up. So
Thank you for sharing all of these thoughts. This is a quick spin around the gallery. If you happen to come by and make an appointment, the way that you read the exhibit is you start out on the left and you can progress through the whole series in a clockwise order. So if y'all want to RSVP for tomorrow night, just message me, and we're going to have a bonfire out back and just, do everything and enjoy ourselves. So this is just a very brief walk around here. Now, do you have anything else that you would like to share in particular about this series? I know that one thing I would like to say is that while these paintings are intended to go elsewhere, so at the moment, folks can inquire to reserve them if they so choose, but we have Mary's studies available online for sale, in addition to a surprise artist that I would like to show off at this moment. Our friend Tori Cox, who I think you met at locally,
oh, right.
She's a potter, and she's created some pots that seem to really resonate with your artwork.
Way to go,
right
Jocelyn.
here. So we've got these little vases, and these are all available for sale on the website, along with, you can see close-up photos of all of the paintings at eatart.space. We have some other beautiful vases here. Like, I'm going to hold them up one by one. There's this gorgeous purple one. I want to keep them all. But if you come by and you want to pick them up locally, they're very handy dandy. and the details are amazing. So we owe some great thanks to Tori, which she's at Tori's Handcrafted, and she also made this really gorgeous big one for those of you who like big, huge bouquets. So we have that, and I have maybe one last thing that I want to ask you, which is that have you ever eaten at Korean Taco House? We're finally getting to the eat portion of the art.
I have not, but I
Okay.
definitely want to. I mean, I saw your image on the website, and it does look like a hole in the wall. I know where it is.
It's a hole in the wall. It's in downtown Johnson City, Tennessee, and the folks there are very friendly, and everybody in the restaurant industry can use continued help right about now. So here is what I ordered for tonight. We got Korean tacos. That's kimchi, and they threw in some extra stuff here. So there's like some real authentic stuff.
That sounds really good for you. Oh,
this
wow.
is called bibimbap. It's my favorite thing to order, and it's full of all kinds of good stuff and some really juicy fried rice in there and dumplings. So if you ever get a chance to order, like they do have vegetarian options as well. You can eat vegan there if you would like to, and it's just a great little place. And just one of those secret treasures that's hyper local that I totally love. And, it's not like fancy or anything, but it's super yummy, and just want to love on them a little bit. So do you have another, does anybody else have favorite places to eat that they want to share? Do you have a favorite beverage or food joint that you want to?
Well, I love the white duck taco, so I would be really happy at the Korean taco place too, I'm sure. I love white duck because they're creative, it's simple, it's inexpensive, and their outdoor eating area is really neat with that fire pit, and you're right near Founders Park with all the sculpture around it. So, I mean, that's probably number one favorite.
Well, we'll have a taco theme tonight then. Let me see. Are there the very, very last thing that I like to do is are there any people who you would like to especially thank, and you can't pick me?
But I do thank you, Jocelyn. I think this is a really cool idea you have. Christine Lafuente she is now at Brooklyn. And she does a lot of workshops. She's the one that taught me in Philadelphia. She's amazing. And I appreciated Christian Reben also at ETSU when I audited his class. So, they're great.
There's some
great
professors. ctaylor.arts that mentions Red Maze. So they must be a local.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes, I need to feature them. So thank you for reminding me. I need to do that. In just a few minutes, I'm going to hop on Facebook and I'll do just a gallery tour, and you can hop in the comments and answer questions if there are any, and if not, that's totally fine too. Does anybody have any last final questions for Mary before I close out the live and say all of my thanks? As we're waiting for any potential questions, I will say you can find all of this work at eatart.space. The gallery is open. We are with COVID safety practices. You can come and make an appointment. You can also come tomorrow night where you can meet Mary in person. We'll be hanging out and doing talks in the backyard, and people can pop into the gallery and say hello. There'll be some munchies, and I already know that there's at least 2 or 3 people who have already RSVP'd with me. So we'll have a nice little crowd out there.
Me too.
And did I mention I'm lighting a fire? So there's
going
to be a little bit of warmth for the cooler
Jocelyn,
autumn nights.
I have a question on Facebook Live, which is next. Can I use my laptop rather than my?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'll do that.
Yes, we can get on the laptop. You don't have to be on there on your phone. That's Facebook Live on the phone is a little crazy, but anyway, if there's nothing else, please check out eatart.space. Give Mary's work a look. Pick up some of Tori's pottery, and here is again some of the pottery along with some doodads that I have for my house. So these are all some gorgeous vases, and then we have Mary's work on display here. And Mary, thank you so much for letting this series sort of come to fruition in this space, and for sharing your thoughts and your process with us.
Thanks a lot. Really good questions.
This is definitely a project of deep study.
Yeah.
So I will hope to, answer I'll hope to rehash everything during the gallery tour momentarily.
All right.
So
See you in
thanks to
there.
everybody who's been watching, and this will be recorded. Bye for now, Mary.